My question is for the Premier. Ontario families are facing rising prices on every front. Rising housing prices, rising energy prices, and perhaps most challenging, rising food prices, Mr. Speaker. We can all agree that eating is no luxury. Ensuring your children have breakfast before school is no luxury. But for many families, families right across this province, the grocery bill at the end of the week is becoming harder and harder to afford. In these challenging times, instead of competing for customers, Mr. Speaker, Ontario's largest grocery chains all but admitted that they collude and plan to keep prices at these inflated rates through the holidays. This is unacceptable at any time, Mr. Speaker, but as we consider rising inflation, as we consider the approaching holidays, this becomes that much harder to bear. With rising food prices, what is this Premier's government going to do to ensure that Ontario consumers, our friends and family and neighbours, are not taken advantage of by some of the biggest companies in this province?
Thank you. To reply, the Minister of Finance.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for that question. Of course, the federal government and all parties have launched the committee and the process for that, and we'll let them do their work. But while we're at it, Mr. Speaker, what about that carbon tax that the federal government, that this party supports, put on the backs of the people of Ontario? That, Mr. Speaker, is causing rising costs and food prices in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what Ontario's done. Let me take you back to when we reduced the gas tax by 5.7 cents a litre, Mr. Speaker. Let me take you back when we took license plate fees off the backs of Ontario drivers. Mr. Speaker, let me take you to today, when we just increased the minimum wage, the second highest in the country, Mr. Speaker. Let me tell you what we're doing tomorrow. We're at the staycation tax credit, the seniors tax credit, the job training tax credit, the child care tax credit. Mr. Speaker, we recalled the legislature this summer to get things going for the people of Ontario. Support us.
Again, I'll ask the members to make their comments through the chair. The supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my supplementaries for the Premier again. Food prices are on the rise, and we've just heard that this government has no plan to protect Ontario consumers from price gouging. And while major grocers collude to keep food prices artificially high during the holidays, they are considering charging their loyal customers just to use their credit card. Grocery stores, some of whom offer credit card-based loyalty programs, want to now charge their customers for the privilege of using their credit card to buy food. So Ontario consumers will be paying higher food prices, prices fixed in part by collusion. They're going to be paying credit card fees. And now the grocers and other businesses want to take a little bit of skim off the credit card purchase, Mr. Speaker. I suppose everyone needs to wet their beak a little bit, but that's going a little bit too far. So, Mr. Speaker, my question, Quebec has passed legislation to prohibit charging consumers a fee to use their credit cards. Will Ontario do the same?
Minister of Finance.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, I don't know if the member opposite was actually listening. And in fact, when we recalled the legislature this past summer, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite had an opportunity to vote to bring costs down for the people of Ontario. What did the member opposite do? They voted against the measures that we put in the budget bill, Mr. Speaker. They had an opportunity. But let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, we have a plan for Ontarians. We have a plan to build Ontario. We took that plan to the people of Ontario. It was roundly endorsed by the people of Ontario, as witnessed by all the people on both sides, Mr. Speaker. That plan is to get shovels in the ground, to build hospitals, to build highways, to build long-term care, to support labour, to get more workers, retrain workers for the jobs of today and for tomorrow, and to help keep costs down for the people of Ontario. Mr. Speaker, we are delivering to the people of Ontario.